Hello, my name is Elijah Wells, and today's review is Christopher McQuarrie's new movie, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. The story follows Ethan Hunt, portrayed by none other than Tom Cruise at this point. This time he must retrieve some keys that fit together like a three-dimensional puzzle piece to shut down the rogue AI system known as the Entity, when in the opening scene, the Entity, or the rogue AI, completely destroyed an entire Russian submarine. So this is what's at stake for him, as in the Entity will basically gather any intelligence, both military and internal and external affairs within each country, and use it against itself and use it against any other country in the sense of word. And the weird dilemma is every country is after it, and once you have it, you basically become enemies with everyone. So it's a bit of a weird situation, even Hansen this time. Like Tom Cruise's other movie, Eyes Wide Shut, Dead Reckoning has been, plagued with a lengthy filming schedule and a lot of production hiccups. As in Eyes Wide Shut, took a couple of years to film and had a very lengthy post-production drama. Same as Dead Reckoning, as in the filming started all the way back from early 2020. As we all know, 2020 was the year the pandemic wreaked havoc, and of course, Ethan Hunt, or Tom Cruise, had no option just to pause the mission for a minute until the mission becomes possible. And of course, it did start and stop again due to the pandemic and cases going up around the world, and even some cast and crew members catching COVID, which did lead to the really unfortunate event of Tom Cruise losing his cool to an unnamed crew member. Again, whether it was warranted or not, he is definitely way more dedicated to bring this to the big screen. Particularly, he's did it with Top Gun, and he's done it again with Mission Impossible in the post-pandemic setting. So, him almost resisting the urge to put it away in Netflix or Paramount Plus and put onto the big screen, because that's what Tom Cruise is already about, and that's what he's charismatically supporting in this really fragile cinema environment. The little MacGuffin in this movie is the Entity. Like I just said, describing the story, it's basically a rogue AI that will use anything and anything against its host, and it's almost like a parasite of some sort. Like it kind of sucks off any military or any country and gives nothing in return. Instead of giving something in return, it almost backstabs the country and uses its secrets against any other country in a way that it wants to essentially declare World War III. So this is a weird predicament that Hunt and the gang has to deal with, particularly in the scene when they were in Venice and they were using their earpieces and their computers, and of course the system crashed and the AI takes over, mimicking Simon Pegg's voice and giving Ethan wrong directions throughout Venice. I guess Ethan Hunt is no longer trusting sat-navs now on. The action scenes in this movie are very intricate, like I said, particularly in the UAE airport, or Abu Dhabi. What gets really interesting, because not just they filmed it at a terminal that was still under construction around the time they were filming, but it does take some inspiration from the anime series Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, I think. It's basically when they morphed faces in real time and delete footage in real time using CCTV cameras, which is something I found really, really intriguing, particularly as I'm a fan of not just this and the Ghost in the Shell series, but also the action scenes, particularly in the Venice nightclub, which were really good, and also in the Austrian Alps, which is some really gripping, really intense action scene taking place in a Orient Express train line, which would you say it rivals up to Demon Slayer, as in train rides you probably best skipping altogether or try to arrive late so you can miss it. So there's that going for them. Again, really great sequences, and the high stakes are definitely there. For this one, Ethan Hunt does have some very notable history, particularly with the main antagonist being Gabriel, betrayed by none other than Ezra Morales, who this time he basically is this I know everything and I'm basically the person who wants this key to basically control the world into my liking, being MacGuffin being the entity, and he's basically an arms dealer and a terrorist and used to be an ally of E5 until some backstabbing later. Ethan becomes what he is, an agent for the IMF, and Gabriel is lurking in the shadows, like he always does. Again, something that's super underappreciated in these movies is Tom Cruise's way of mixing action and comedy, particularly in the scene where they're in Rome and they have to drive a Fiat, a small old-timey Fiat car, which are notoriously difficult to control, particularly in a high-speed pursuit in Rome with these narrow streetways, and he has to do a handcuffed, and he's driving almost like this, and handcuffs is where my bracelet is, and he's like this, trying to drive around Rome with a swerving out of control car, and thankfully they did find stoppage, but the stoppage being at an underground train track, and he thankfully survived. Ethan Hunt, but he still has the driving steering wheel, just walking around Rome with a whole steering wheel. Like, people will probably think you're a thief already at this point, and I think even chained to being handcuffed to it will probably raise a little bit more questions. Again, that's something that's super underappreciated in these film series. Again, the threat of AI is definitely very identifiable in this movie, even though it is going to be used as a way to completely sabotage national security of every country in this world. But also, it is a massive threat in real life, because not just the Actors Guild are striking, but also the Writers Guild are striking. I'm not sure, even though they are doing part 2, like filming it right now, maybe, I don't know. But again, Hollywood might be putting the brakes on all filming at the moment, but I'm not sure what Tom Cruise has responded to it in any way or form. But again, since he is basically a massive fixture in these movies, chances are he's spoken pretty critically about it, and given that he's pro big screen and really loves to do all of his stunts, chances are this is basically his vocal piece to criticize against AI, particularly being used to write screens or scan actors without their permission, and basically use their appearance to basically be like almost like video game avatars or NPCs, like hidden in the background, like in FIFA or something like that. Basically, they're making movies into essentially video games, so that's why Hollywood is striking, and you can read my essay on Twitter. And now for the moment, I kind of want to admit a couple of things don't exactly make too much sense to me, like Paris, played by Pom Krumekeff, who she is more famous as for playing Mantis in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I feel like they should have utilized her character like a lot more, or something in a way that's a little bit more interesting, in my opinion. Like, she's basically like a crazy assassin type, in my opinion, but she did shine, particularly in the third act, a little bit, but again, I feel like they could have used her a little bit more. And also for Gabriel, I kind of wish that he had more underneath of what he wanted to do with the key and the entity. Like, what was his whole motive about it? What was his whole relationship about it? Something we may get a little bit more in part 2, like, what's his whole backstory with the entity outside with his history with Ethan Hunt, and why does he want him so much more than anyone else? And even though he did obviously say that he wants it to make countries turn against each other, but what is his motive? Which is again something I feel like may need more explanation in number 2. And also the runtime weirdly gets criticized. Even though I never criticize any film's runtime, even for a long one, although this movie clocks in at 2 hours and 43 minutes, I feel like for part 2, it's going to have the complete audacity to really outdo this film's runtime, since this movie is a two-parter, unless if it's going to be like The Deathly Hallows, where part 2 is notably shorter than part 1. So I think there's that going for it. So I'm just hoping the stakes are a lot higher. Like and stunts are gonna be a lot bigger than like driving off a cliff or doing paragliding or a train literally driving off a bridge. Like it's gonna have to be a lot bigger. Seeing this is part 1, we'll just see what part 2 has to offer. Like, if this is what we have, this is going to get a bit bigger, since Tom Cruise is all about big entertainment on the big screen. Like quite a lot of the Mission Impossible movies, I really do enjoy this movie. This is the type of movie I could kick back and just watch and have a lot of glee just watching it onto the big screen. And Tom Cruise definitely knocked this one out of the park. Chris McQuarrie is an excellent director for this film. A lot of the cast did great performances, the action is brilliant, the stunt work is amazing, and the scenes are really great on delivering on the intense moment and complete attention to detail. And of course the set pieces are immaculate as well. This is definitely one of the stronger entries in the movie series, even though the franchise is noted to be one of the most critically consistent film series out there. Even though it could have done some more work on the villain's motives and Paris's presence throughout the movie, I feel like this is definitely a really good outing, and I'm just hoping part 2 completely blows this movie out of the water, because I enjoy it. Then what does part 2 have to offer? Because it's only going to get a lot more bigger. So I'm feeling an 8 out of 10 on this one. So what do you think of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1? Let me know in the comments, subscribe to my channel, like this video, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and this is Elijah Wells, and bye.